You know that moment, late at night when something from months ago quietly surfaces. A conversation, a regret, a fate, and your body tightens as if it just happened. Tonight, we're going somewhere safe with that. You'll discover why the mind holds certain moments so tightly, and understand why letting go may be the quietest, most profound gift you can offer your sleeping brain. Welcome to Sleepy Mind Science. Wherever you are right now, perhaps lying still while your mind turns slowly like a wheel that hasn't learned to stop, allow yourself this space. We'll trace 100 psychology facts about releasing the past, from the small cluster of neurons that decide what is worth carrying, to the way sleep reaches into stored pain and gently loosens its grip, to the place where letting go is not forgetting, but finally, resting. This quiet journey through healing builds bridges between minds that have been carrying things too long. A gentle subscribe, like, or sharing this video with someone creates a pathway for more healing hearts to discover this space and brings us closer to protecting it, one sleepy soul at a time. Your presence here nurtures something worth keeping. Let yourself settle completely here. Feel your jaw unclench, your breath deepen naturally. You can let these thoughts drift past without holding them. Sense that soothing heaviness enveloping you, like the moment a hand finally uncurls from something it has held too long. Releasing into open air, soft and still, ready for sleep. Close your eyes and breathe deeply. You're resting where old feelings are gently turning into something quieter. Let your mind soften along the edges of whatever it has been holding. And now we begin. Your brain never truly forgets, but it does something more subtle and far more meaningful. Every time you recall a memory, your brain briefly makes it fragile again. During this window, the memory can be changed, softened, or reinforced before being stored again in a slightly new form. Researchers call this reconsolidation. It means that the past is not a fixed recording. It is a living thing, always in some quiet negotiation with the present. The story you carry tonight may not be the same story your brain holds by morning. Memories are not stored in a single location. They are distributed across the brain in networks, with different components held in different regions. The emotional weight of a memory lives primarily in a small, almond-shaped structure called the amygdala. The factual content of what happened sits closer to the hippocampus. Sleep, it turns out, is when these two parts of a memory are quietly separated, and the emotional charge is gradually allowed to fade, while the event itself is preserved. The brain is not trying to make you forget. It is trying to help you survive. Some researchers estimate that the human brain processes approximately 11 million bits of information per second, yet conscious awareness holds only around 40 bits of that. The vast majority of what your brain does each day happens entirely beneath your notice. This is particularly relevant for emotional healing. Much of the processing of difficult experiences happens not when you are thinking about them, but when your brain is working quietly in the background, in the pauses, in the rest, and most powerfully, in sleep. Rumination is the medical term for the pattern of repetitive, unwanted thoughts about past negative events. Research consistently shows that rumination keeps the body's stress response active long after the original event has passed. It is as if the mind keeps sending the same alarm signal, and the body keeps responding as though the danger is still happening. The nervous system cannot distinguish between a real threat and a vividly imagined one. When you replay a painful memory, the body responds with some of the same chemistry as the original moment. Cortisol is the brain's primary stress hormone. In healthy sleep, cortisol levels fall significantly in the early hours of the night, allowing the body to repair and the brain to consolidate memory. But research shows that when people ruminate before sleep, cortisol levels remain elevated. They are higher the following morning than in people who did not ruminate. Even on days that were not particularly stressful, holding on to the past chemically delays rest. The body is waiting for a signal that it is safe to let go. There is a structure in the brain called the medial prefrontal cortex. Its job, among many things, is to regulate the amygdala, to calm emotional reactivity, to place experience in context, to apply reason and time to the rawness of feeling. Sleep is when this regulation happens most effectively. During deep rest, the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala engage in a kind of quiet conversation. When sleep is disrupted by unresolved emotional content, this conversation is interrupted, and the amygdala continues to fire without the calming influence of its partner. A 2024 study found that sleep deprivation disrupts the coupling between the medial prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. When that connection is weakened, emotional stimuli feel larger, more threatening, and harder to dismiss. Ordinary events can feel overwhelming. Old memories feel newer. Things that happened years ago feel like they happened this morning. The brain, without adequate sleep, cannot place the past in the past. It loses its sense of time with emotion. The glymphatic system is a network of channels throughout the brain that flushes out waste products during sleep. It is most active during deep, slow-wave sleep. The waste cleared includes metabolic byproducts that accumulate during waking hours. Research published in The Lancet Neurology in 2024 notes that this system appears to be driven largely during non-rapid eye movement sleep, and that its function is increasingly understood as one of the brain's primary tools for overnight restoration. Much of the detailed mechanism comes from animal research. Though the broader function is well supported across species, what is cleared is not only physical waste, but chemical byproducts of emotional arousal. Sleep is the brain taking out the day's residue. The default mode network is the brain system most active when you are not focused on any external task. It activates during mind-wandering, daydreaming, and self-reflection. Research has found that in people who struggle to let go of past events, this network tends to remain active at night. It keeps returning to unresolved material, searching for meaning or resolution that does not come. The default mode network tends to continue its searching until given a gentle signal to slow. Sleep science suggests that the brain is always looking for closure, and that emotional experiences that feel incomplete are more likely to keep this network running through the night. So already, a picture is forming. The past is not simply stored in the brain as a record. It is held there as a living, chemically active system. When something from the past remains unresolved, it continues to draw resources, to trigger hormonal responses, to interrupt the communication between the brain's emotional and regulatory regions. And sleep, the very thing needed to process and release it, is disrupted by the very tension it is trying to relieve. This is one of the most quietly profound cycles in human neuroscience. And understanding it is the first step toward working with it. Gently, from the inside, there is a process called memory reconsolidation, mentioned briefly at the start. Its implications are worth resting with a little longer. Each time a memory is recalled, it enters a state of temporary instability. During this window, new information can be integrated into the memory, and its emotional tone can be altered. Research has shown that this window lasts only a few hours after a memory is activated. Sleep following memory reactivation appears to play a role in stabilizing the new, often softer version of that memory. The act of gently revisiting a difficult memory before sleep may not be avoidance. It may be the beginning of release. The amygdala encodes emotional intensity. It acts as a kind of significance tag on memories, flagging certain experiences as important enough to remember clearly. Strong emotions, particularly fear, grief, or shame, produce stronger amygdala activation during encoding, which is why painful memories are often so vivid. They were marked with urgency. They were meant to be remembered. This is an ancient protective mechanism. Your brain was not punishing you when it held onto the difficult things. It was trying to protect you from them happening again. The hippocampus works alongside the amygdala to form memories. While the amygdala provides emotional weight, the hippocampus provides context, time, and place. Together, they determine not just what is remembered, but how it is remembered. Sleep plays a specific role in the relationship between these two structures. During slow-wave sleep, memory traces are replayed, and the emotional significance attached to them by the amygdala begins to be renegotiated. The hippocampus gradually contextualizes difficult experiences as past. It places them in time, and with enough sleep, what felt immediate begins to feel, gently, like history. People who sleep fewer than 6 hours per night show measurably higher amygdala reactivity the following day. In imaging studies, the amygdala responds more strongly to negative emotional stimuli in sleep-deprived individuals, and the calming influence of the prefrontal cortex is reduced. This creates a state in which old wounds feel fresh, mild inconveniences feel threatening, and emotional regulation becomes effortful rather than natural. It is not weakness, it is chemistry. The brain that has not rested is a brain that cannot distinguish between now and before. Something interesting happens during the hours just before waking. REM sleep, or rapid eye movement sleep, is more abundant in the second half of the night. And REM sleep is when the brain does some of its most important emotional work. Research across several decades, recently reviewed and extended in 2024 and 2025, confirms that REM sleep is the stage when the emotional charge of memories is most actively processed. During REM, the brain revisits emotional experiences, but in a neurochemical environment very different from waking. Noradrenaline, the molecule most closely linked to stress, drops to its lowest levels of the 24-hour cycle during REM. The brain revisits what hurt, but in a chemical state closer to peace. This is the foundation of what researchers call the sleep to forget, sleep to remember hypothesis. The idea is that sleep allows the brain to preserve the memory of what happened, while gradually reducing the emotional sting attached to it. The event is not erased. The event is remembered, but the pain associated with it is slowly, gently dissolved. Research published in 2025 from investigators at Harvard Medical School and Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center added new evidence for this, finding that both slow-wave sleep and REM sleep contribute to emotional memory consolidation in complementary ways, each doing a different part of the healing work across the night. Dreams may be one mechanism through which this processing occurs. A 2024 study from the University of California, Irvine found that people who recalled dreaming showed greater emotional memory processing the following day. Specifically, they remembered emotionally charged events better, but were less reactive to the negative aspects of them. The dream itself appears to help transform emotional experience. Dreaming is not random noise. Emerging research suggests it may be the brain's nightly editing process, keeping what matters, softening what hurt. Forgiveness has a measurable neurological signature. Studies using brain imaging have found that when people engage in genuine forgiveness, activity in the amygdala decreases, while activity in the prefrontal cortex increases. The brain moves from a defensive, threat-oriented state to one of thoughtful regulation. Forgiveness does not happen only in the heart or in conversation. It happens in the brain. And research suggests it is one of the most direct paths to restoring the kind of neural balance that allows restful sleep. You do not need to complete the act of forgiveness tonight. Simply allowing its possibility changes the brain's chemical environment. The body holds what the mind cannot fully process. This is not a metaphor. Research in psychophysiology has confirmed that unresolved emotional experiences are associated with measurable changes in muscle tension, heart rate variability, skin conductance, and inflammatory markers. The body keeps a record not only of what happened, but of what was never fully released. Sleep gives the body a window to set these responses down. Each hour of deep rest is an opportunity for the nervous system to move from a state of alert to a state of safe. Heart rate variability, a measure of the variation in time between heartbeats, is considered one of the best biological markers of nervous system balance. Higher heart rate variability is associated with better emotional regulation, lower stress, and improved resilience. Sleep consistently improves heart rate variability, and this improvement is reduced in people who carry high levels of rumination to bed. The heart, like the mind, needs the past to loosen its grip before it can find its own rhythm. There is a chemical in the brain called gamma-aminobutyric acid, or GABA. It is the primary inhibitory neurotransmitter, meaning its job is to slow activity down, to quiet neural firing, to create the conditions for rest. Research has found that reduced GABA levels in the brain are associated with both anxiety and insomnia. When the mind holds on to past events, the nervous system remains in a state of low-level alert, and GABA's quieting influence is continuously undermined. Letting go is not just a psychological act. It is, in a very real sense, a neurochemical one. The perseverative cognition hypothesis is a framework in psychological research that describes how ongoing mental rehearsal of stressors, even after the stressor has passed, keeps the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis activated. This is the body's central stress response system. Prolonged activation is linked to elevated cortisol, disrupted sleep architecture, and increased risk of physical health consequences. Research published in 2024 extended this understanding by showing that rumination about major life stresses, not just everyday stress, significantly elevates cortisol reactivity in subsequent situations. The past, when held too tightly, affects the body's ability to respond to the present. Sleep architecture refers to the way different sleep stages cycle across the night. In a healthy night, slow-wave sleep is most abundant in the early hours, followed by longer and longer periods of REM sleep toward morning. When sleep is disrupted by emotional arousal, this architecture is altered. REM sleep in particular is reduced when cortisol levels are high at bedtime. And since REM is when emotional processing occurs most powerfully, the very thing needed to let go of difficult experiences is reduced by holding on to them. The path forward is, quietly, to soften first. Research on mindfulness, published in the journal Sleep in 2024, found that trait mindfulness, a person's natural tendency to stay present and observe without judgment, is associated with specific patterns of sleep EEG activity. These patterns are linked to better emotional regulation and lower levels of nighttime arousal. People who have developed the practice of observing thoughts without clinging to them show different brain activity during sleep. Their brains appear more prepared for the emotional processing work that sleep is designed to do. The practice of watching thoughts pass without grabbing onto them changes the sleeping brain. We are 25 facts into this journey, and already a picture is clear. The brain is not designed to hold on to the past permanently. It is designed to process, compress, integrate, and release. The mechanisms are built in. The architecture of sleep, the cycles of REM, the nightly fade of noradrenaline, the reconsolidation window, the glymphatic flush, the quieting of the amygdala. All of these are the body's natural letting go system. They are not optional upgrades. They are the default. What interferes with them is not weakness, but pattern, cause habit, and the understandable human fear that releasing the past means losing something that must be kept. Tonight, we are discovering what it actually means to let it rest. Let's pause here and notice your body. As you breathe out slowly, become aware of each cell working quietly beneath your skin. Right now, your brain is doing what it was built to do, sorting the day, weighing what matters, gently adjusting the edges of what is stored. Notice any tightness in your shoulders, in your jaw, in the space behind your eyes. These are places where the unfinished things have been resting. You don't need to solve anything here. You only need to notice and breathe. Your nervous system knows what to do when you allow it. Now we continue. There is a difference between suppression and release. Suppression is the active effort to push a thought away, to force it out of awareness through sheer mental effort. Researchers found that this kind of effortful suppression, the straining attempt to eliminate a thought entirely, tends to backfire. Studies suggest that the harder the effort to rid the mind of something, the more accessible that something becomes, particularly under cognitive stress or fatigue. This is sometimes called the ironic rebound effect. What tends to work more reliably is something quieter, allowing the thought to be present, observing it without engaging, and gently redirecting attention elsewhere. The effort required is almost the opposite of fighting, and the sleeping brain does its best work when the waking mind has already stopped struggling. The prefrontal cortex is involved in what researchers call executive function, the set of mental skills that includes planning, working memory, decision-making, and impulse control. It is also the brain region most responsible for down-regulating the amygdala, for putting emotional responses in context. Sleep directly restores prefrontal function. Even one night of poor sleep measurably reduces prefrontal activity. And since the prefrontal cortex is both the regulator of emotion and the seat of perspective, sleep deprivation creates a state in which the emotional brain leads and the reasoning brain follows slowly, if at all. Noradrenaline, the stress-linked neurotransmitter mentioned earlier, drops to near zero during REM sleep. This is unique. No other stage of sleep and no waking state produces this level of noradrenaline suppression. Researchers believe something simply what allows the brain to revisit threatening or painful memories during dreams without re-traumatizing itself. The emotional content is present, but the chemistry of threat is absent. This is the brain's own version of a safe container, a built-in mechanism for processing what cannot be processed in the full intensity of waking experience. Studies of people with post-traumatic stress disorder have revealed something important about what happens when emotional processing during sleep fails. In many individuals with PTSD, noradrenaline levels remain elevated during REM sleep rather than dropping. This prevents the normal decoupling of emotional charge from memory. The result is that difficult experiences are revisited during sleep, but without the protective neurochemical environment that allows healing. Research suggests that for most people, without clinical-level trauma, the system functions as designed when the body is allowed to rest deeply, without chronic arousal, keeping noradrenaline elevated through the night. Self-compassion has a measurable impact on sleep. Studies have found that people who score higher on measures of self-compassion, the ability to treat oneself with the same kindness one would offer a friend in difficulty, fall asleep more easily, wake less during the night, and report better sleep quality. The mechanism appears to be related to reduced rumination and lower cortisol at bedtime. When the internal narrative shifts from judgment to care, the nervous system responds. The body responds to how the mind speaks to it, even when no one else is listening. The insula is a region of the brain involved in interoception, the sense of the body's internal state. It processes feelings like heartache, gut feelings, and physical sensations associated with emotion. Research has found that the insula is often hyperactive in people who struggle with emotional rumination. The body sense of unresolved pain stays active, contributing to the low hum of distress that disrupts sleep. Practices that encourage body awareness without judgment, gently noticing sensation without adding narrative, appear to reduce insular hyperactivity and create conditions more compatible with rest. The anterior cingulate cortex sits between the emotional and rational regions of the brain, helping to integrate the two. It is involved in detecting conflict between thoughts and emotions, and in motivating behavior toward resolution when past events remain emotionally unresolved. The anterior cingulate cortex continues to signal that something needs attention. Sleep is one of the contexts in which this signaling can be answered. Research on emotional conflict resolution published in the Journal of Sleep Research in 2024, confirmed that a single night of sleep deprivation disrupts the brain's ability to resolve emotional conflicts at the speeding, neurophysiological level, specifically impairing the mechanisms the anterior cingulate cortex uses to settle internal dissonance. Memory consolidation during sleep is not random. The brain actively selects which memories to strengthen and which to allow to fade. Emotional relevance is one of the primary criteria for strengthening. Practical relevance is another. What is emotionally neutral and practically insignificant is quietly released. What is emotionally charged but no longer useful is processed, with its emotional weight gradually reduced. This selective consolidation is not passive. It is an active editorial process, running nightly, choosing what version of the past to carry forward. Sleep is not just recovery, it is curation. Research has found that people who hold on to interpersonal grievances, unresolved conflicts with others, show elevated inflammatory markers in their blood, interleukin-6 and tumor necrosis factor alpha, molecules associated with the body's immune response, are measurably elevated in people with chronic unresolved anger or resentment. The body treats sustained emotional tension the way it treats physical stress, generating a slow, persistent biological response. And since elevated inflammation is associated with disrupted sleep architecture and reduced slow-wave sleep, what we carry emotionally has a direct pathway into the quality of the night. The body wants these burdens to close. The vagus nerve connects the brain to nearly every major organ in the body. It is the primary channel of the parasympathetic nervous system, which governs rest, digestion, and recovery. Vagal tone, a measure of how well the vagus nerve regulates body function, is strongly associated with emotional regulation and sleep quality. High vagal tone is associated with the ability to recover quickly from stress, to settle after arousal, and to enter sleep with relative ease. Research has found that practices which activate the parasympathetic nervous system, including slow exhalation and allowing the body to soften, improve vagal tone, and that improved vagal tone is directly linked to more restorative sleep. What soothes the nervous system soothes the night. The hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the body's central stress-regulating system, operates on a 24-hour cycle. Cortisol is lowest in the early hours of sleep, rises gradually toward morning, and peaks just before waking. This cortisol awakening response prepares the brain for the demands of the day ahead. Research, published in 2025, found that this morning, cortisol surge specifically enhances the brain's capacity to suppress unwanted emotional memories, particularly those that have not yet been fully consolidated overnight. The body primes itself each morning to let go of what sleep has begun to process. The system is always working, always moving toward release. Sleep spindles are brief bursts of neural activity occurring during non-REM sleep, typically lasting less than 2 seconds. They appear on brain recordings as small waves of rapid oscillation. Research has increasingly linked sleep spindles to the consolidation of emotional memory, and more specifically, to the reduction of emotional reactivity associated with difficult memories. People with higher density of sleep spindles show greater emotional processing efficiency the following day. Sleep spindles are, in a sense, the tiny mechanical heartbeat of the healing brain. There is a well-documented phenomenon called sleep-dependent emotional dissipation. Over multiple nights of adequate sleep, the emotional intensity of a memory decreases measurably. Even if the factual content remains intact, this is not forgetting. It is not denial. It is the natural decay of emotional charge over time, a process that requires sleep to occur. Research suggests that when sleep is consistently poor, this decay is slowed, and emotional memories retain their charge longer than they would with adequate rest. The brain needs multiple nights. Healing, like sleep itself, is cumulative. Breathing affects the brain's readiness to process emotion. Research has found that slow, extended exhalation activates the parasympathetic nervous system and reduces activity in the amygdala. Breathing at a rate of approximately 5 to 6 breaths per minute synchronizes the heart and the nervous system and creates conditions for both emotional regulation and improved sleep onset. The pace of the breath changes the pace of the emotional brain. Slow down the breath, and the past has a slightly easier time moving on. We have now traveled 40 facts into this journey. We have seen how the brain holds the past, why it holds it so tightly, and what it needs to begin to release. The architecture is clear. The body knows what to do. The system is built for this. But knowledge alone does not change the chemistry. What changes the chemistry is rest, breath, time, and the gentle, repeated willingness to let go of the watching. Not because the past did not matter, but because you matter now. The present version of you, lying here tonight, deserves the full attention of a brain no longer burning resources on what cannot be changed. Take a slow breath. Notice how much quieter your thoughts are now, how they've softened just slightly from when we began. We're exploring the mind's healing system together. You and I and everyone else listening in the gentle dark tonight. There is nowhere else to be. Let's continue. Slowly. Acceptance is not the same as approval. This distinction matters deeply. For sleep, acceptance means allowing the reality of something to exist without continued resistance. Resistance is metabolically expensive. It keeps the nervous system active, maintains cortisol elevation, and sustains the amygdala's alert state. Acceptance, by contrast, reduces the internal effort required to manage difficult experiences. Research on acceptance-based therapies consistently shows improvements in sleep quality, not because the difficult events are no longer present in memory, but because the exhausting work of resistance has been set down. There is a region of the brain called the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. It plays a specific role in emotion regulation and in the extinction of fear and threat responses. Activation of this region is associated with reduced amygdala reactivity and with the experience of emotional safety. Sleep enhances ventromedial prefrontal cortex function in people who have difficulty sleeping due to rumination. This region shows reduced activity both during sleep and during waking emotional regulation tasks. The calming center of the brain is quietened by the very state it is needed to prevent. The act of writing about difficult experiences in a structured and reflective way has been studied as a tool for reducing their impact on sleep. Research has found that expressive writing before bed can reduce cognitive arousal and improve sleep onset. The mechanism appears to involve offloading incomplete processing from the mind onto the page, allowing the brain's overnight consolidation systems to work on a smaller, more organized residue. When the mind arrives at sleep with less unprocessed material, the brain's emotional architecture can begin its nightly repair work more efficiently. Writing does not resolve the past. It gives the brain less to carry into sleep. Physical touch activates the parasympathetic nervous system. The release of oxytocin, associated with warmth, connection, and safety, reduces amygdala activity and promotes the conditions for sleep. Research has found that loneliness, the absence of felt connection, is associated with lighter sleep stages, more frequent waking, and reduced slow-wave sleep. When the brain senses connection, the amygdala quiets, and a quieted amygdala is one that allows REM sleep to do its work undisturbed, gently processing what the day left unfinished. The brain that feels safe releases the past more easily. The default mode network, mentioned earlier, is associated with self-referential thought. When it is overactive, the mind tends to loop through personal narratives, particularly unresolved ones. Research has found that the default mode network is naturally quieted during sleep, allowing the day's accumulated self-narrative to settle. Meditation and mindfulness practices that reduce default mode activity during waking hours have been associated with improved sleep quality, potentially because the brain arrives at sleep with less accumulated narrative residue waiting to be processed. Memory is reconstructive. Every time you remember something, your brain builds it again from fragments, influenced by your current emotional state, your recent experiences, and the story you have been telling about it. This means that the version of the past you are holding tonight may already be quite different from what originally happened. It has been shaped by every retelling, every night you lay awake with it, every interpretation that has accumulated around it. The past in your mind is not the past itself. It is the most recent reconstruction of it. And reconstructions can change. There is a concept in cognitive neuroscience called emotional granularity. People who have a precise and nuanced vocabulary for their emotions tend to regulate them more effectively. When you can distinguish between feeling disappointed and feeling humiliated, or between feeling anxious and feeling sad, the brain can process each of these states more specifically and efficiently. Research has found that emotional granularity is associated with better sleep quality. The more precisely you can name what you are carrying, the more cleanly the brain can set it down. Sleep affects the formation of new perspective. Research has shown that after a night of sleep, people's understanding of complex or emotionally charged situations often shifts, sometimes subtly, sometimes significantly. This is likely due to the integrative work of sleep, which connects new experiences with existing knowledge and allows new associations to form. The morning after a difficult day often feels different from the night before, not because the situation has changed, but because the sleeping brain has found new context for it. Sleep is not only rest, it is a quiet reorganization of understanding. The concept of closure is widely understood in everyday life as the resolution of something unfinished. Neuroscience suggests that the brain actively seeks closure and that incomplete experiences generate a kind of ongoing cognitive signal, a low-level notification that keeps the default mode network returning to them. Full closure, in the psychological sense, may not always be possible. Events cannot be undone. Apologies may never come. Losses may never be fully explained. But the brain does not require external closure to achieve internal rest. Research on psychological flexibility suggests that the ability to hold unresolved experiences without demanding resolution is one of the most protective mental habits available. Halfway through our journey, and the answer is already present, not as a single revelation, but as an accumulation. The brain wants to let go. Every biological system in the body supports release over retention. The chemistry of sleep, the architecture of memory, the function of the prefrontal cortex, the drop in noradrenaline during REM, the consolidation and compression of emotional memory across the night. All of it is oriented toward moving through experience rather than staying inside it. What holds us in the past is not the brain's design. It is the brain's response to feeling unsafe. And safety, we are learning, can be built one breath at a time, one night at a time. And imagine this: every memory you are carrying right now was formed in a moment that is already gone. The moment itself no longer exists. Only the trace of it remains, held in networks of neurons, in patterns of chemical activity, in the stories you have told yourself since. This second, right now, is not that moment. This breath is not from before. You are not in the past. You are here. The body you are resting in tonight has never lived a moment that has already passed. It lives only now. Let yourself be only here, in this breath, in this quiet. And we continue. Sleep scientists have identified a phenomenon called slow oscillations, large waves of synchronized neural activity that occur during deep, slow-wave sleep. These oscillations appear to coordinate the transfer of memories from the hippocampus, where recent experiences are held, to the cortex, where they are stored as longer-term knowledge. As this transfer happens, the emotional weight attached to recent memories appears to be processed and gradually reduced. The past moves from raw to refined, from close to distant, from painful to simply known. Gratitude has a documented relationship with sleep quality. Research has found that people who regularly practice gratitude before sleep fall asleep more easily, sleep longer, and report better sleep quality. The mechanism involves a shift in cognitive focus from threat-oriented and regret-oriented thinking to appreciation-oriented thinking. This shift changes the neurochemical environment at bedtime, reducing cortisol and activating reward pathways associated with contentment. Gratitude is not a denial of difficulty. It is a choice about where the mind's attention rests before sleep. Social support reduces the neurological impact of holding on to past events. Research has shown that people with strong social connections show reduced amygdala reactivity to negative stimuli and recover more quickly from emotional arousal. The brain of a person who feels connected to others is a brain with lower threat sensitivity. The felt presence of others, even in memory, even in imagination, changes the brain's assessment of how alone it must be with its burdens. And reduced threat sensitivity is precisely what allows the brain to move through its REM cycles undisturbed, completing the emotional processing that holding on has been interrupting. You were not meant to carry the past alone. There is a phenomenon in sleep research called sleep-dependent insight. Studies have found that people who sleep between problem-solving sessions are more likely to discover novel solutions and new perspectives. The sleeping brain is not passive. It makes new connections. binds unexpected links, integrates information from different domains. This capacity extends to emotional understanding. People sometimes wake with a clarity about a difficult situation that was not accessible the night before. The sleeping brain works on what is left unfinished. Sometimes it finds an answer the waking brain had been too busy to see. The body's temperature begins dropping by approximately 1 to 2 degrees Fahrenheit in the hours leading up to sleep, signaling the brain's sleep onset systems to activate. This natural temperature drop is one of the clearest biological signals that the body is transitioning from active to restorative mode. Importantly, emotional arousal elevates body temperature. When the mind holds onto distressing material, this natural temperature drop can be delayed. The body's own pathway to rest is eased aside by the warmth of unresolved emotion, postponing the quiet slide into sleep that the body has been preparing for. The brain's reward system is involved in emotional learning. Dopamine, associated with anticipation and reward, plays a role in deciding which experiences to hold on to and which to release. Research has found that experiences associated with strong emotional arousal, both positive and negative, tend to be better remembered. But there is an asymmetry. Negative emotional experiences, particularly those involving threat or social pain, are encoded with greater urgency. The brain is slightly more cautious about releasing what hurt than what pleased. This is not a flaw. It is an ancient protection, but it is one that, in modern life, often outlasts its usefulness. Muscle relaxation and sleep quality are deeply connected. Progressive muscle relaxation, a practice of deliberately tensing and releasing muscle groups across the body, is one of the most well-researched behavioral interventions for insomnia. Its mechanism involves directly activating the parasympathetic nervous system and reducing the physical expression of accumulated emotional tension. The body holds the residue of the day in its muscles. Releasing the muscles is, in a real sense, releasing some of what the day left behind. And each muscle that softens is a small permission, given from the body to the brain, that the night is safe. Epigenetic research has begun to explore how chronic emotional stress can affect gene expression, including genes related to inflammation, immune function, and sleep regulation. These effects are not permanent. Research in this area suggests that interventions which reduce chronic stress and improve sleep quality can begin to reverse many of these changes over time. Consistent, restorative sleep appears to be one of the most accessible pathways for restoring healthy patterns of gene expression linked to emotional regulation. The body is not only a record of the past, and the night is one of the primary windows for rewriting. Imagery and visualization affect the brain similarly to real experience. Research using brain imaging has shown that imagining a peaceful scene activates the visual cortex and reduces amygdala activity in ways resembling the response to actually being in that scene. This is why guided relaxation and visualization techniques help the brain settle before sleep. When the imagination is directed towards safety and calm, the emotional brain responds as though safety and calm are real. The nervous system responds to the narrative the mind creates, and a nervous system that has found a calm place to rest carries less of the day's weight into sleep. There is a quality of mind that researchers sometimes call equanimity, a stable, unheld relationship to whatever is arising, without either clinging to pleasant experiences or pushing away difficult ones. Studies of long-term meditators show distinct patterns of brain activity associated with equanimity, including reduced amygdala reactivity and enhanced connectivity between the prefrontal cortex and limbic regions. These are, notably, the exact patterns that adequate sleep also restores. Rest and equanimity share a neural signature. Sleep cultivates equanimity from the inside by quietly doing the emotional processing work that waking life leaves unfinished. The circadian rhythm, the body's 24-hour biological clock, regulates sleep-wake cycles, hormone release, and metabolic function. It is set primarily by light, but also influenced by behavior and emotional state. Chronic emotional stress disrupts the circadian rhythm, shifting the body's natural sleep signals and contributing to the pattern of lying awake at night when rest is most needed. Restoring the circadian rhythm involves not only managing light exposure, but also the consistent practice of winding down, signaling to the body each evening that the day is done and the body is safe. Research in neuroscience has found that the brain processes social pain and physical pain through overlapping neural circuits. Rejection, loss, humiliation, and grief activate some of the same regions as bodily injury. This is why old social experiences can feel so present and so physical. The brain is not exaggerating when it aches from the past. It is using the same system it would use if the soreness were visible, and like physical wounds, emotional ones tend to ease with time. Rest and care, the conditions are the same. The concept of psychological safety has moved from organizational research into sleep science. Studies have found that people who feel safe in their environment, in their relationships, and in their relationship with themselves show measurably different sleep architecture. They spend more time in the slow wave and REM stages that support emotional processing and less time in lighter stages associated with vigilance. Safety, felt at a deep level, changes the structure of sleep. Unchanged sleep changes the brain's relationship with the past. Cognitive reappraisal, the ability to reinterpret the meaning of an experience in a way that changes its emotional impact, is one of the most studied emotion regulation strategies in psychology. Research has consistently found it to be effective in reducing negative affect and improving emotional well-being. Importantly, sleep supports cognitive reappraisal. After sleep, people tend to find it easier to reframe difficult experiences, to find new meaning, to access perspectives that were not available in the emotional intensity of the original moment. Sleep makes reappraisal more accessible. It opens the door to the possibility that what happened means something different than it first seemed. We are 65 facts into this journey, and an understanding is forming that is both deeply neurological and deeply human. Letting go of the past is not a decision the mind makes once and then is done. It is a nightly biological process that the body is always attempting, always working toward, if only given the conditions to do so. The conditions are rest, safety, time, and the willingness to stop rehearsing what cannot be changed. When those conditions are met, the sleeping brain does what it was designed to do. It processes the emotional charge, softens the edges, and returns you, each morning, slightly freer. The brain's own design is the answer Research on cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, known as CBTI, consistently shows improvements in sleep that outlast the therapy itself. One of the central techniques involves restructuring beliefs about sleep and about the consequences of poor sleep. When people stop catastrophizing about not sleeping, sleep often improves. Similarly, when people stop catastrophizing about the past, when they relinquish the belief that continued rehearsal will eventually resolve what has not resolved, the nervous system begins to quiet. Letting go of the story about holding on may be as important as letting go of the events themselves. There is a structure in the brain called the nucleus accumbens, the part of the brain's reward circuitry. Research has found that it is involved not only in the anticipation of reward, but also in emotional memory and in the processing of social experiences. When the brain finds meaning in a difficult experience, even retrospectively, when it locates something learned or something changed in the wake of what happened, the nucleus accumbens activates in a way that supports integration rather than rehearsal, meaning does not erase the past, but it transforms the brain's relationship with it, and in doing so, makes the emotional charge easier for sleep to gently dissolve. Research on resilience, the ability to recover from difficulty, has identified several consistent features in people who do so well. Among them, strong social support, the ability to find meaning, a practice of self-compassion, adequate sleep, and physical activity. What is notable is that these are not character traits people either have or don't. They are behaviors, practices, and conditions. Resilience is not fixed. It is built night by night, breath by breath, in the small, repeated acts of allowing the body to rest and the mind to soften. The pineal gland releases melatonin in response to darkness, signaling the body's sleep systems to begin winding down. Melatonin does not cause sleep directly. It creates the internal conditions of night, preparing the brain for the transition from waking to rest. Emotional arousal suppresses melatonin release. The brain reads sustained emotional activation as a signal that the environment is not yet safe enough for deep rest. The body is waiting for permission, not the permission of another person or of circumstances, the permission that comes from within when the mind agrees to set the day down. Research has documented the effect of sleep on perspective-taking, the ability to consider the viewpoint of another person. After sleep, people show greater perspective-taking capacity, greater ability to consider how situations might be understood by others, including those who were involved in past difficulties. This shift in perspective is often one of the first signs that a difficult experience is beginning to integrate. The softening of certainty, the widening of understanding, the faint possibility that there is more to the story than what the first hurt revealed. Nature sounds, including rain, flowing water, and ambient outdoor environments, have been found to reduce activity in the default mode network and activate the parasympathetic nervous system. Research has suggested that these sounds occupy auditory attention in a gentle, non-demanding way that eases the internal loop of self-referential thought. The mind finds a rhythm that exists outside itself, and in that rhythm, the past loosens just slightly. There is something restful about sounds that have been happening for longer than any human trouble. The process of mourning, as understood in psychology, involves the gradual integration of loss into the self, not the erasure of what was lost, but the reorganization of the self around the absence. Sleep appears to support this process. Research has found that sleep in the days following significant loss helps preserve emotional memory of the person or situation lost, while reducing the acute distress associated with the loss. The brain is doing grief work during sleep. Every night of rest is part of the slow, necessary work of carrying loss without being carried by it. The precuneus is a region of the brain associated with self-awareness, autobiographical memory, and the integration of past and present experience. Research has found increased precuneus activity during REM sleep, suggesting that this is a period when the brain actively processes the personal narrative, the ongoing story of who we are. Dreams during REM may be part of this narrative processing, weaving recent events into the larger story of the self, finding where new experiences fit, and gently releasing what no longer serves the story forward. Sleep is, in this sense, autobiographical revision. Compassion for others and compassion for oneself appear to share neural pathways. Research has found that activating self-compassion reduces activity in threat-related brain regions and increases activity in regions associated with warmth, care, and affiliation. Critically, self-compassion does not reduce motivation or accountability. What it reduces is the additional layer of suffering added by self-criticism, the secondary soreness that keeps the primary one from healing. The brain cannot fully rest while simultaneously condemning itself. Rest and self-criticism are competing for the same neural territory, and only one of them leads towards sleep. 75 facts into this journey, and the answer is clear. Letting go of the past is not a betrayal of what happened. It is not forgetting, not minimizing, not denying. It is participating fully in the biological process your brain was designed to complete. Every night is an invitation. Every hour of deep sleep is a step in the direction of integration. The past does not need to be erased to stop controlling the present. It needs to be processed, compressed, contextualized, and gently placed behind the mind, rather than in front of it. The brain knows how to do this. It has always known. It only needs the conditions of rest to work. You might be feeling tired now. That is perfectly right. Every night, the body runs through cycles. Light sleep, deep sleep, dreaming sleep, over and over, like a tide moving in and out. Each cycle is another pass at what needs to be processed, another loop of the healing system, another quiet round of release. You don't need to be awake for this. The work continues, whether you are aware of it or not. Your only task now is to stop watching. Let the cycles do what they do. We are nearly at the end of our journey. Healing is not linear. It does not proceed evenly from pain toward peace. It circles back. It visits old ground. This is not failure. It is the brain returning to complete, unfinished work. The way sleep returns to REM again and again across the night, each time completing a little more. Trust the spiraling. It is the pattern of how minds heal. The sleeping brain is not passive. It is active, purposeful, and engaged in work that waking life cannot do. Each hour of deep rest is the brain tending to itself without your interference. This is perhaps the most restful truth in all of sleep science. You do not need to do anything. The work is happening. Research published in Nature Neuroscience in 2025 found that the brain's transition from waking to sleep follows a distinct tipping point, a brief, non-linear shift, after which the brain moves abruptly into sleep. This tipping point can be predicted with high accuracy from brain activity patterns. What precedes it is a period of gradually slowing activity, a softening of the waking state. The brain, when allowed to quiet, tips naturally toward rest. It wants to cross that threshold. The body is always moving toward it. The past exists as chemistry, as patterns of synaptic connection, as conditioned responses stored in networks distributed across regions of the brain. It does not exist as a fixed object. It is process, not stone, and processes can change, slowly, with the right conditions, one night at a time. Time and sleep together change the emotional tone of memory. Without sleep, time alone does not heal, but time with sleep, consistently, gently, tends to soften almost everything. The research is clear on this. Repeated nights of adequate rest, over weeks and months, measurably reduce emotional reactivity to past events. The soreness does not vanish, but it becomes, gradually, a scar, and scars are quiet. Letting go does not mean the past did not matter. It does not mean the people involved did not matter. It does not mean the experience was not real or significant or worthy of feeling. Letting go means allowing what happened to move from the foreground to the background of the self. It means releasing the past from the duty of defining the present. The past happened. You happened through it. And now you are here, separate from it, softer for having survived it. The nervous system learns safety slowly. It needs repeated experience of rest to revise its assessment of the world. Each night of deep sleep is a small piece of evidence offered to the body that the present is not the past, that the difficulty has passed, that rest is possible. The nervous system is not unreasonable. It responds to evidence. Give it enough evidence of safety, and it will begin, slowly, to believe. There is something called the completion tendency in psychology. The mind tends to keep returning to unresolved experiences, not necessarily because it remembers them more vividly, but because something in it continues to orient toward what feels unfinished. Research suggests this tendency may be quieted not by completing every unresolved thing, but by offering the mind a meaningful signal that resolution is being moved toward. Writing about difficult experiences, naming what happened, or simply acknowledging what cannot be changed may serve this function. The brain responds to these gestures. It does not always require real-world resolution to settle. Sometimes, a sincere act of acknowledgement is enough for the night. Warmth has a calming effect on the nervous system. The body temperature drop that accompanies sleep onset is actually initiated by the peripheral warming of the hands and feet, which draws heat away from the body's core, creating external warmth. A warm bath before bed, warm socks, a warm blanket can support this process and signal the brain that sleep is approaching. The body moves toward rest through warmth. What soothes the body also soothes the mind that lives in it. Research has found that people who regularly experience awe, a sense of the vastness of something larger than themselves, whether through nature, music, art, or contemplation, show reduced self-referential thinking and reduced rumination. Awe shifts the brain's focus outward and upward, away from the small, persistent loop of the personal past. It is not escapism. It is a recalibration of scale. When the self is briefly placed within something vast, the particular soreness held so tightly becomes, for a moment, something smaller than the world that contains it. The body's inflammatory response is closely tied to sleep quality and emotional state. Research has consistently found that sleep deprivation increases inflammatory markers, and that chronic emotional tension, sustained rumination, suppressed grief, unresolved distress, produces a similar pattern. The body does not wait for permission to begin healing either, offering it rest, offering it the quiet of the night. The inflammation finds its way toward quiet. The chemistry shifts without effort. The body is always ready when the invitation arrives. Stories told about painful experiences change over time. What feels unbearable in the first weeks often becomes, years later, part of a larger narrative about who we are and what we have survived. The brain is always engaged in the work of narrative integration, finding where new experiences fit in the ongoing story of the self. Sleep is when much of this work happens. Each night, the self is quietly reorganized around what has occurred. Given enough nights, even the hardest things find their place. Silence is not empty. Research on the brain's resting state has found that during silence, including the silence between sleep cycles, the brain is highly active, consolidating, organizing, integrating. What feels like nothing happening is often the densest processing of the day. The pause between breaths is not a gap in living, it is part of the living. The quiet that falls over the mind as sleep approaches is not absence. It is the sound of the brain finally getting to work on what matters most. The body's cellular repair processes are most active during deep sleep. Human growth hormone, released primarily during slow-wave sleep, promotes tissue repair and cellular renewal. The brain repairs itself. Synapses are pruned and strengthened, a process researchers call synaptic homeostasis, which ensures that connections formed through the day's emotional experiences are organized and recalibrated overnight. The endocrine system rebalances. Every cell in the body participates in the work of overnight restoration. You are not merely resting when you sleep. You are being remade. Night by night, the same system that renews the body renews the mind's relationship with the past. So why does letting go of past events affect your sleep? Because the past, when held as an unresolved emotional charge, creates ongoing neurological activity. It sustains cortisol. It disrupts the coupling between the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. It interrupts REM sleep and the emotional processing that REM provides. It keeps the default mode network looping. It delays the glymphatic system's quiet clearing work. It holds the body in a state that reads as threat, not rest. And the brain cannot fully rest in the presence of perceived threat. Letting go is not a luxury. For the sleeping brain, it is a biological necessity. Tonight, something is shifting, not because a single video can heal what years have held, but because understanding changes the nervous system's relationship with what it holds. When the brain understands that its holding is not protection but continuation, it becomes possible to choose differently. Not always, not tonight, completely, but increasingly. The understanding, once present, cannot be entirely unlearned. The word healing comes from an old root, meaning whole. To heal is to become whole again, not to return to what existed before, but to integrate the fractured parts into something continuous. Sleep is a process of continuous reintegration. Every night, the fragmented experiences of the day are woven into the larger tapestry of the self. Every difficult experience, given enough sleep and enough time, is eventually accommodated. The self grows around what it has been through. In the morning, after healthy sleep, the cortisol awakening response, that brief surge of the hormone that prepares the brain for the day, is correlated with the ability to actively manage unwanted emotional memories. Research published in 2025 found that this morning, cortisol surge enhances the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex's capacity to hold difficult memories at bay, to approach them without being overwhelmed. Good sleep does not just process the past. It gives the brain better tools for the mornings that follow. Everything that has been said tonight is not instruction. It is description. The brain is already doing this work, already moving toward release, already using sleep to process, compress, and gently dissolve the emotional charge of what has passed. Your only role, the only thing being asked, is to allow the conditions, rest, soften, breathe, stop rehearsing, stop fighting. Let the night do what the night was designed to do. You have always been moving toward this. Sleep is ancient. Mammals, birds, reptiles, fish, even some invertebrates sleep. Sleep is older than human memory, older than language, older than the first story ever told about loss or longing. The need for rest is written into biology deeper than any difficulty. It predates and will outlast every specific pain that keeps any particular mind awake tonight. The pull towards sleep is one of the oldest forces in living things. It outlasts regret, and it has always been waiting. You are not your memories. The self is not the record. The self is the one who holds the record, who interprets it, who chooses each night what to carry into sleep and what to allow the sleeping brain to gently take from the hands that have been holding too long. The memories remain, but you are more than what you remember. There is gentleness available in the way the night comes, in the way the breath slows without being told to, in the way the body, given stillness, knows exactly what to do. Gentleness is not weakness. It is the appropriate response to something that has already been through enough. The brain will work tonight. While you rest, it will quietly sort the day. It will visit what ached and apply the chemistry of sleep to its edges. It will move memories from the hippocampus toward long-term cortical storage. It will replay what matters, compress what can be compressed, and gently fade the emotional volume on what has been too loud for too long. Trust it. The brain knows how to heal. It was made for this, and the letting go is not an ending. It is a release of pressure, like the moment when a held breath is finally exhaled. What was held does not disappear. It changes form. It becomes something the self has passed through, rather than something the self is still passing. The difference is everything. You have traveled 100 facts tonight, through the chemistry of rumination and the healing architecture of sleep, through the softening work of REM and the quiet editorial pass of slow wave, through cortisol and compassion and the ancient pull of the body toward rest. And the final truth is simple. The brain was built to let go. It wants to let go. It is trying, every night, to let go. What it needs from you is only the willingness to stop holding on long enough for it to work. You have been practicing that willingness tonight, and it is enough. And so, our quiet journey through the science of letting go comes to a gentle close. We began with Fact 1, the discovery that memory is never fixed, but always open to gentle revision, and traveled all the way to Fact 93, where we found that even the morning cortisol surge is built to help the brain approach what the night has softened. We discovered that between these two facts lies a complete and ancient system, not built to torment us with the past, but to process it, compress it, and return us, each morning, slightly freer than the night before, from the small almond-shaped structure that holds emotional weight to the dreaming stage of sleep that loosens that weight in a chemical field closer to peace. We have glimpsed how the most human of struggles, the struggle to stop carrying what cannot be changed, is also one of the most neurological. The past does not live outside of you. It lives in chemistry that changes, in architecture that shifts, in the sleeping brain that is always moving toward release. Letting go reminds us that the self is not a fixed container of everything that has ever happened. It is a living, responsive process, shaped by experience, but not imprisoned by it. Much of the integration work happens in silence, in darkness, in the space below awareness, in the dreaming brain and the glymphatic wash and the slow, long slope of REM. Without the permission to rest, this work cannot complete. By choosing rest tonight, you have participated in something quietly profound. In these final minutes, take the deepest breath you can, as deep as possible. Think about what it means to be oneself, carrying one history, resting in one body, in one moment, and think about all the other minds, tonight, in other rooms, carrying their own histories towards sleep. All of them, like you, built with the same healing architecture. All of them, like you, made to let go. You are not alone in what you carry. You are not alone in the need to set it down. Let your entire being dissolve into the quiet that follows a long exhale, into the darkness that is not empty but full of the work of healing that asks nothing of you tonight except stillness. Prepare for deep sleep. No boundaries left, only peace. If this gentle exploration of the mind's healing science helped quiet something tonight, perhaps pass it softly to someone else who might be lying awake with something they've been holding. A quiet share might be exactly what another tired mind needs to finally allow the night to work. One gentle act, one sleepy soul at a time. But there's no need to do anything now. Nothing at all. The stories of neurons and cortisol and dreaming brains can fade now, like thoughts at the edge of sleep. Not gone, simply no longer needed. The work of holding has been resting this whole hour. Let your breathing deepen. Let your body feel heavier, as if all the weight of what you have been carrying has been quietly, gently redistributed to the night itself. And the night is simply holding you. If sleep comes, let it carry you the way the brain's own systems carry memory through the night. Not falling, not rushing, but arriving into a realm where time and weight no longer matter. If your eyes are still open, the next video is waiting for you, ready to continue the journey. But if they're closed, stay there. Stay in the darkness that feels safe and warm. Tomorrow, the brain's healing work will still be turning. The chemistry of rest will still be offering what it always offers. But tonight belongs to stillness. Rest well, gentle explorer. And remember, the brain that holds you while you sleep is always quietly working toward your freedom. Good night.